And with me today, I have Allura Halliwell, who is the founder of the Consciousness Method and a leading authority in core wound healing, helping people overcome patterns of feeling unloved, unworthy, and unknown. Her multidimensional approach draws on quantum meditation, energetic sovereignty, and deep somatic work to help bring individuals um, well, just to help them break free from unconscious cycles and align with their true purpose. Through signature offerings like the Pattern Shift Masterclass, a parenting connection mentorship, and immersive retreats, Allura guides seekers, coaches, and healers toward full embodiment and authentic expression. Her work is for those ready to bridge spiritual awareness with real world transformation. Welcome to the show, Allura. Such an honor to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, Anu. That's just a gorgeous introduction. I'm so grateful to be here.
Amazing. Wow, Allura. I feel like what you're doing is resonating with many, many people because it's just, I just find like times are changing and people are starting to really understand their worth and they're just not willing to settle for anything less in their romantic relationships, which is why there's so many single people now. And I guess, you only have to go on the dating apps to see just the amount of people that are breaking away from marriages and relationships that don't serve them, which wouldn't have been the case in the past because I feel like in the past people just may do. They never
Oh,
knew anything better. But it'd be great to hear your own journey as to, what motivated you to the work that you're doing today.
oh my gosh, I'd love to share. But yeah, on that piece, before I dive in, I really actually agree with you. I am witnessing so many divine humans going, actually, I want to choose a relationship with myself first before I dive in and have a relationship with anyone else. So I want to take the time to reconfigure myself and then choose and align to someone that's really got a similar energy and connectivity and has processed themselves. So I really like I'm honoring that people are choosing that path, even though it's complex and it's something that takes some energy and focus to get through that dating journey. But I think it's just an amazing thing that people are really choosing themselves and honoring that. But yeah, my journey, wow. It happened that I had a very spontaneous, radical introduction to healing, the spiritual world. 7 years ago, I went to a retreat with some girlfriends to get a small break from my beautiful young three children at the time and my quite intense and demanding ex-husband who I really was in a relationship with him that was very much on a nervous system, stress, survival tract where a lot of reactivity, a lot of anxiety, a lot of projection, and a lot of uneasiness. But I wouldn't say I was really seeking anything more than a holiday at that point. But I went along to a meditation retreat with my friends, and I actually had a spontaneous awakening experience where I was walking on the beach to do my meditation that morning, and I actually fell over in the sand, and I could feel my consciousness moving through my body, and it actually caused me to kind of black out in a way and have my consciousness move out of my whole being and return back to source, like probably like a near death experience. I went through the bright light and I completely merged back into a greater consciousness. And it was from that point, I was probably out for about an hour and a half, eventually came back into my body and opened my eyes and felt like an alien here. I was like, oh my God, what are we doing here? Who am I? And I'd almost had a complete reset of my whole personality, my preferences, my understanding of my identity. And I had this kind of, I suppose, a gift come through whereby I could see the design of reality and I was beginning to understand how energy worked and how we as humans have this human experience. And it really catapulted me on a journey because I felt this really deep sense of disconnection from the physical world and from my nervous system and from the patterns that were driving me to try to survive my lived experience. And it was from there that I began to delve into the nature of reality, to the design of consciousness, to how we have these core wounds that actually imprint our lives on repeat and the effect they have on us. And that was really the beginning. And it took me a couple of years to integrate that journey, and now begin to be able to teach this method that was shown to me through that experience.
Wow, what a journey. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for sharing it. So, how do you actually define the core wounds of unloved, unworthy, and unknown?
Yeah, so I really sensed that when I came back to trying to decipher this physical experience, that survival and a lack of safety was really at the core of humanity. We're constantly looking for ways to externally provide a feeling that we are enough, that we're valued and loved, that we're understood, that we're safe in some ways. And we structure our existence to try to seek that external sense of completion. So the wounds are really these energetic and behavioral thought form and I suppose existence pathways where we keep trying to seek outside of us to finally feel the feelings of being loved, worthy, and understood internally. But the problem is that seeking is often in an addiction pattern whereby we keep seeking, actually have the internal template of belief that we are intrinsically loved, worthy, and understood. So it actually just keeps going in a cycle where we keep feeling huge levels of pain underpinned by some fear that we're never actually going to arrive. And it doesn't quite matter what we believe, that we think, oh, we should be loved, we should be worthy, we should be understood. It's a very core patterning that causes us to separate from ourselves and try and find that externally. So these wounds are really a way to understand the repetitive patterns of your existence that cause you to go into the same relationships, the same work situations, the same seeking for the knowledge or the studying or the feedback from social media or from your job to kind of affirm you, and how it just keeps hitting the mark.
Wow. Yeah, it is. It like from what I'm gauging from that, it's just that sense of validation that people seek, and then ultimately that then indicates their own self-belief and self-worth. And so it's obviously not very wise to be relying on such external validation. We should be feeling that internally already within ourselves. And so, yeah, I feel like this is quite a common occurrence. And so, what does actually healing from the core wound fracture look like in routine life?
Such a great question, because what we kind of become unconscious and almost unaware of is that these patterns are so intrinsically linked to our daily choices, our behaviors, our thought forms, our emotional responses. So, the beginning part of this journey is to actually bring a huge level of consciousness to the fact that we're in a repeat in our existence. We're actually choosing the pathway that we believe will bring us external safety, instead of internal safety. So we're choosing the partnerships that don't quite feel right, but give us some level of reassurance that, oh, we're connected to someone, or we're choosing the jobs that actually don't really provide us true purpose, but they kind of feed us like a dripping, you're enough, you're doing a good job, you're earning money, you're in this cycle. And in the unknown wound, they kind of give us a sense of external awareness that we're doing something that can be seen or understood or heard, or we're actually feeling like a level of safety by something outside of us, like an ongoing job. So we're getting a paycheck, but we're actually not feeling safe internally. So these wounds show up in these repetitive patterns, and unless we become conscious, we don't really feel them. But I find that the sensitive humans that are here on this planet at the moment are going, oh my God, I can feel this on the daily, that something's not quite right. And that there's a level of pain and maybe unconscious trauma that's connected into these wounds, where there's been some really deep fractures in our experience where we've felt disconnected from ourselves because there's been a whole lot of pain that's being inflicted upon us or that we've embodied from our childhood. And the pattern has just continued from there. We've found ways to try and be safe, but those ways to try and be safe haven't actually cured the core of the wounding. They've just kept us in a survival mode.
Okay. Yes, yes. And you've also said that, pain is a portal for true change. So how do we walk through that portal safely?
It's a really great question because pain is one of those things I think as a species, as humanity, we actually don't quite have a full understanding of. We know a lot about suffering. We know a lot about what it feels like to keep feeling the same levels of emotional addiction, to feeling like we're not enough, or we're feeling like we're grieving, or we're feeling like someone's done the wrong thing to us, or we're feeling like a victim. But beneath those kind of top level, or we're angry potentially, beneath those top level emotions is a very, very deep portal that is actually sensation based in the body. It's actually a place in the body where that pain has been anchored across the space and time of your life. And that deep level of pain is almost like a reservoir of consciousness that's being gated. So you've had pain in your life and you've actually developed suffering around that pain. And most people just exist in suffering. But when you go deeper into that deep pain portal, you're actually opening up the energetics and the cellular blocks and the thought forms that keep you in a state of suffering. And when you feel the purity of that pain, it actually opens up a whole nother level of reality because you're no longer operating from an unconscious zone where that pain informs everything you do. It actually comes to a completion point. So in a lot of the work I do, I guide people through that portal to open themselves to feel the truth of that pain and to feel safe to feel that. Because when you really feel that pain, it almost feels like you're dying to yourself. It's an extreme level of connectivity to something that's being almost blocked and gated in your body.
Interesting. Yes, yes, I can really relate with that. And so, how do unconscious energetic loops maintain life's repeating challenges?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful, awareness because those unconscious loops are it's almost like your default mode. It's almost the ways you know how to interact with reality to get the same responses over and over again. So you know how to trigger certain conversations with the people around you. You know how to trigger certain feelings within you by maybe looking in the mirror or looking on your social media or looking at your bank balance. And from that unconscious place, you just accept that this is how you're supposed to feel, that your life is meant to be filled with these moment to moment triggers that bring you these emotional responses. And when you're not conscious to those, they just end up becoming the fabric of your existence and you move from one trigger to the next. And the actual choice point where you step into being the creator of your life begins to diminish because you just feel at the mercy of these emotional responses that aren't actually cultivated from your truth. They're just in response to everything around you. So the more and more we grow in consciousness, the more and more we have the capacity to consciously choose how we want to create our realities.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. And so you've also launched a parenting connection mentorship. So how does that actually relate to your core wound work?
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how the imprints happen. For all of us, I think we can feel how the imprint of our parents has informed how we view our reality, we respond to things, we have the relationship we have to our emotions. So I'm really deeply passionate about supporting parents to understand how their unconscious wound loops can be really impacting on their children. And often there are these patterns of separation where we might be in judgment of our kids. We might feel like they're maybe not responding or acting in ways that make us feel safe because we were actually punished for doing the same things or made to feel wrong or not enough by exhibiting these behaviors. And our kids are this beautiful mirror that show us exactly where our childhood triggers and our unresolved trauma is still sitting in our bodies. But if we're not conscious of that, it just ends up in a looping projection whereby we're responding unconsciously to our kids. They're developing the same patterns of feeling unsure if they're truly loved, if they're truly enough, if they can be heard and understood and seen. And that perpetuates the cycle. And working with parents is just such a profound gift because it has a ramification for everyone. It means the child feels more connected and internally safe with the parent, and the parent feels more free to be able to guide and nurture instead of having to coerce, control, dominate the child to feel safe within themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, how can parents actually move from reactive patterns to more connected and just having a more loving presence?
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a question of looking at what lens you're looking at your child from. So if there's any form of judgment around what they're doing, then there's a sense of feeling unsafe that there's something wrong with your child or that they're not acting in a way that you've deemed appropriate or inappropriate. They're not performing to a certain level. And that is going to activate within you a sense of unsafety. And if you're not feeling safe in yourself, you're going to project and react to your kids in a way that actually doesn't serve their growth. So instead of making it the kids' problem, I would absolutely flip and look at where is this triggering you on the deepest levels and why is this triggering you from the way you were treated as a child? And when you get more access to that, you actually feel like there's more compassion and empathy because you remember how it felt to be responded to in that way. And that can initiate a whole new level of healing for you and for your family.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. So the next time our kids don't listen to us, instead of shouting and just getting emotional and angry about it, take a step back and just few deep breaths and just kind of question yourself. Why, where's this come from? Why am I triggered like this? Is it really the fact that my child isn't listening to me? So obviously, based on that, what kind of daily practices are like quantum meditation, do you, like from your own experience, do you feel can help people to rewire all their older patterns?
Yeah, I mean, for the parenting, there's such a huge spectrum of meditation and processes that I do, but for the parenting in particular, for you to actually go through space and time and find that moment. So the example you used of where you were not heard as a child, and to actually drop into the body of you as a child that's actually still alive in you because that's where your pain was gated when you were little because you weren't heard and seen and understood. And you can actually merge with that version of you and hold the version of you really safely that felt completely unseen and dismissed. And when you hold that version of you in safety through space and time, because all space and time is happening right now, it actually shifts the way you want to show up for your child because instead of shouting at them to try and override what they're doing, you actually turn into listening first because you know that your little version would have wanted to be heard first and then being open to receive. So whatever the mirror is, whatever the imprint is, you can actually transform first for yourself in the relationship with your younger being, and then from there you can imprint that on the relationship with your child.
Mm.
And the healing that I've witnessed in this is just beyond measure because you're so powerful to be able to shift that dynamic internally first.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. Do you have any success stories that you can share? Obviously, no, we no client names, of course.
No. In that space in particular, I've worked with a woman with two small children, and she really had to go back and sit with the levels of physical and verbal abuse that she sustained as a child. And when she really witnessed the deep levels of pain that were in her body that were continually being triggered by her children's behavior, she was actually able to drop below the fear
Right.
that activated her nervous system and caused her to act in ways that she didn't want to act with her children and begin to process that. And she actually would go back into her bedroom as a child and sit and hold the version of herself that was in a huge amount of fear. And as she held that version of herself, she was actually stretching her nervous system to have greater level of capacity to hold a space for her kids. And she began to be able to feel that the pain that was coded in her body, that she was trying to release every time she got upset at her own children, was something that she could access. So she almost died into that pain and allowed that pain to fully be released through her cellular body. And I was able to support her to have that full level release, which then meant when she was sitting with her kids and they were in a zone where they were actually trying to trigger her into her healing pattern, she was able to reach in and hold and expand beyond the fracture space where she would just react and replicate her parents' behavior. And from there was able to build a bond with her kids that's being so profoundly nurturing. And they've actually flourished under that natural process of her healing her own version of herself whilst in reflection with her kids. And then I've also worked with parents that have teenage kids that have actually realized that their teenage experience of feeling deeply disliked by their parents or deeply misunderstood was actually the root of them not being able to understand and really respect the teenage journey that their children were going through. And it's such an amazing consciousness that you can bring when you begin to work with yourself on that level, because it impacts everything. And these families begin to regenerate and reconnect. And often what happens spontaneously is that the parent will connect with their parents as well if they're still around, and that will heal as well. I've had an amazing journey with a woman that was really had a very tough childhood with her alcoholic father, and actually enabled through this version of healing to have a full spectrum adult relationship that she never had with her dad. And it's just a profound shift of consciousness, because that fear from that trauma keeps you separate from the people you love. And when you resolve it within and actually look at the version that's available to you of that person, they're often really open and willing to have a relationship on a whole nother level. But your wounding's been wanting to repeat the same fracture in that experience. So it's quite profound to see. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So, how can someone develop energetic self-sufficiency?
I love that because when I was going through my journey of coming back into my body and reorientating myself, I was so aware that most of my energetic resources were investing all around me to try to create a stabilized reality. I was trying to look after the kids, I was trying to look after my husband, I was trying to look after my whole design, and I felt energetically depleted internally. So it wasn't until I began to develop a relationship with my energy that I was like, oh my goodness, I can actually reclaim all the energy I use to try to survive, to fill my own being with my own energy. And from there, create a degree of sovereignty where I'm not reliant or dependent on certain circumstances to make me feel safe. I'm actually internally safe and connected to my own energy. And when people begin to reclaim their energy, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that this was one of the most precious currencies that we have. And we don't think about it because it's kind of a given. We just on this treadmill of like, I'm just going to do all these things and get all these things done and I'll feel good eventually. And it's like, no, actually, you can reclaim your energy and work from energetic completion, sovereignty, and wholeness, and then create from there. And you're creating from a whole different level of reality.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in like your own kind of daily experience, what does becoming multidimensional mean to you?
Oh my gosh. Well, at the beginning, it was a lot of mystical experiences because I was almost not quite anchored here, I was able to be all places at all times. So I was going through a lot of past life experiences. I was seeing energy. I was understanding the fabric of reality because it was being shown to me in imagery. I was meditating and just being able to move dimensions and realities and situations. And that was just like the heightened level of not being so material, but being involved in anything, in everything at all times. But since I've kind of come back and orientated into my body, I think the most multi-dimensional access that I know that I can have now is deeply connected to the frequency and emotionality of my being. So my emotions and my frequency are determining timelines. They're actually creating the reality around us. So to be multidimensional means that you know that you're the creator of your reality and you can actually bend time and space to your will when you understand that your perception, energy, and frequency can define exactly what you're experiencing. So when I'm working with people, I'm teaching them about the mastery that they actually have innately within them. Because I think a lot of us feel like we're a victim to reality, but when we understand that we're actually so much more and we're the conscious creators of our reality, it's like game on. Let's really see how we can play and design. And it's beyond manifestation. It's like you are the template of the reality creation that's happening all around you. So if you work on this, you're going to work on the whole design that you're experiencing.
Beautiful. Yes, love that. Thank you. So, how can listeners begin to feel expansive and just free from limitations?
Oh my gosh, I love that question as well. I've found that the limit the freedom
Mm,
is almost like a peeling back of where you are still stuck. So it's almost like to go higher and to try to create this positivity or this kind of, in some ways, a false sense of like, I feel great. It's like it's not actually the truth of you. So for me, the processing of where you're feeling dense, where you're still holding fear, where you have pain in your body, where you're still cycling in trauma, that's where you clear your vessel and then you naturally expand into life.
mm,
So a lot of the people I work with, we're going through the density and the portals of those things first. And naturally, from that space, your experience of the truth of your reality gets better and better and better. And you're
mm.
not sitting there going, I wish I was somewhere else, because where you are is perfectly designed for your evolution. And you have the tools to be able to evolve through it. So you're like, wow, I'm actually feeling really empowered.
Beautiful. Love that. Love that. So, what would you say to somebody who feels like they've hit a healing plateau?
Oh, yeah. It's time to go deeper. It's time to really go deeper because I work with people that are mostly done between 4 to 8 modalities where they've kind of cycled through a different understanding of how to piece together themselves. And they get to this point where they're like, okay, I don't really know where to go. I'm still cycling in my loops, but I can't get deeper. And at the very core of everything I do is supporting people to develop a relationship with their consciousness. And their consciousness is that vast spectrum of intelligence that is actually guiding you to understand your own lived experience. And instead of it being like healing, it's almost like, how can I use my physical reality as a mirror and as a guidance to where I need to go next and what I need to explore next and where I need to open up the limited version that I'm just accepting and to go deeper and into a more expanded state. So, yeah, I would say that's probably where there is work to be done. It's just a different relationship to healing that I think sometimes needs to happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Wow. And so, do you have any kind of tools or any techniques that my listeners could be practicing starting from today?
Yeah, beautiful. So I've got some free meditations on my SoundCloud that they could dive into if they were interested in doing that. And I think the most important thing is to realize that your self-reflexiveness, like your capacity to challenge yourself, to challenge what you think is the status quo, and to begin to ask questions is the ignition for you to actually connect more to yourself. So, the more you're willing to be aware of what's really going on for you and actually face that, to actually feel the depth of your pain, to understand exactly where you're positioning yourself, what your triggers are, how you're behaving, what your repetitive thought forms are. When you bring more and more consciousness to that and not just accept that as the status quo, you get the material to work with. And that material is the evolutionary material that we're all here to step through to really understand ourselves. So I would say be very mindful of what is automatic for you. Challenge the automatic, challenge the accepted ways of being. Like that relationship that you think can't heal actually can. Like that trauma that you don't think that you can ever overcome is absolutely something that's a portal to you going to the next level. That stuckness you may feel in your bank balance, in your job, in your purpose, with your children, with your health, that's actually the place where you're going to find your mastery. So don't accept the status quo. We're here to be liberated, free, connected beings. So don't feel like you have limitation that has to keep you where you are. Challenge everything.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yes, absolutely. So I guess it's the reward that's received from actually breaking through these limitations. That's where we then, step up to the next level and we see, what is actually possible. And I guess, that's how we also figure out our purpose as well. So I think that's such a beautiful, piece of advice to people. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so I know your mission is evolution of humanity. So what is the first step toward that collective shift?
Yeah, wow, that's a good one. The shift, I think, is yeah, this consciousness is ours. It's not, everyone that I work with, I say this all the time. It's not me, it's not anything I'm doing. It's literally just being a mirror to activate and awaken your consciousness and your knowing about yourself. So I would always say that I'm just a mirror back to your consciousness. And if something ignites your consciousness, then you're becoming more and more attuned and aware to your potential and to your contribution to humanity, because we're all a unique ray of consciousness that has to come together to express the truth of this whole experience. And we need everyone on board doing this work to bring that forward. So the level of consciousness that you have is absolutely available to continue evolving you and to continually creating a new level of reality, but also more and more safety. Because I think a lot of people feel like I'm so stuck in my pain, I'm so stuck in my suffering.
Mm,
And just to know that there is a way through that is the first step. You do not have to remain in that. It
mm.
is not a closed loop. You can crack that open and live a different life.
Totally beautiful. Thank you. And so where can my listeners find you?
Allura Halliwell. Allura Halliwell online, on the socials. I have my own kind of small podcast where I chat to the beautiful humans that have done my work and express how life-changing it's been. And it's called the Consciousness Method Podcast. So you can listen in and see whether it's something that resonates for you. But otherwise, you'll find me at Allura Halliwell everywhere. And I'd love to connect. I'm really, yeah, I'm very much about really honoring everyone's individual journey. So, yeah, for me, it's a very intimate experience because it's the core of why I'm here. I'm here purely for the evolution of humanity and serving in any way I can. So I'd be honored to connect.
Wow, thank you so much. Powerful, such a powerful episode. I really appreciate your invaluable insights and just the knowledge that you shared today. I found it really inspiring. Thank you so much, Allura.
Thank you, Anu. And I'm so inspired by you. The number of episodes you've had and the number of people you've had on your show is truly a gift. So thank you so much for shining your ray of consciousness. It's a deep honor to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. So, my beautiful people, that's all we have time for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please do reach out to Alora. I know she would love to hear from you, and her website's amazing. You'll see a lot of resources and a lot of valuable information on her website. So, please do check that out. I'll be leaving all the links within this episode as well. And yeah, amazing. Thank you so much again. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next show. Take care, my friends, and stay blessed.